पृथिवी शान्तिरन्तरिक्षगं शान्तिर् द्यौ शान्तिर् दिशः शान्तिरवान्तर दिशा शान्तिरग्निः शान्तिर्वायुः शान्तिरादित्यः शान्तिश्चन्द्रमा शान्तिर् नक्षत्राणि शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिर्वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्गौः शान्तिरजा शान्तिरश्वः शान्तिः पुरुषः शान्तिर्ब्रह्म शान्तिर्ब्राह्मणः शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः शान्तिर्मे अस्तु शान्तिः. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu, sarvas sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om.
SHA Newton Manush on pages 55 and 60, maybe 55 and 56 in your book. But first, Bob will read a translation for us.
SHA Newton Manush. A new God-man has come to this world. Come on if you would like to see him. He has a supply of discernment and renunciation to distribute to us. Flowing like the holy waters of the Ganga, the words mother, mother always flow from his holy mouth. He says, O Mother Divine, one day has gone by, and you have not revealed yourself to me. To the nihilist and ignorant person alike, he taught in simple words, saying that whoever is Kali, the same as Krishna. The differences are only in name. But in principle, they are all one. People call water by different names such as aqua, water, pani, vari, or jal. Similarly, people call the one truth by different names such as Allah, God, Jesus, Moses, or Kali. The lowly, the rich, the respected, the wise person, caste, creed, he does not discriminate. If viewed with a simple mind, he is seen as entirely bereft of ego and inebriated with a divine madness. With both hands uplifted, he calls out, come one and all, come here. For your sake and out of compassion, I am waiting in my loneliness. With much effort, I have prepared the ship on the shore of the ocean of worldliness to take you all across its waters.
Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayeti Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Te Namam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. Our topic today is harmony of religions. We know from history, and we also know from looking at contemporary society, that religion is a very powerful force. Although an increasing number of people today identify themselves as secular, or at least not identified with any organized form of religion, nevertheless, the religious instinct is very strong. And we know that it's a force that has done as much good as perhaps equal quantity of bad, so to speak. It's a force that has united human beings, brought them together. It's also a force that has divided people into groups. It's a force that has brought enormous amount of peace in individual lives and also collective lives. But it's also a force that has inflicted wars, bringing so much of pain and suffering. How can a thing, the same thing, bring so much mutually conflicting results? How can something that can bring peace also bring so much pain? How can something that can bring so much fulfillment also bring so much of discontent? Clearly, things are more complex than how they appear to be on surface. Now, these matters have become even more urgent today than they were in the past, because, as we all know, the world has become much closer due to increased mobility and the resulting globalization. And because of that, societies everywhere are becoming more diverse. It's very difficult to go out in pretty much most parts of the world, and you will, more likely than not, bump into someone who is very different from you at many different levels. Well, as human beings, we might all be human beings, but still we will meet people who are either come from a different religion, a different culture, a different racial background, a different economic background. So there are any number of ways that these differences can be noticed. And then we have to deal with these differences. The difference in itself is not problematic, but sometimes these differences can create difficulties. And we know how some of these things can be extremely painful. Witness the refugee crisis which is troubling many parts of Europe. Well, refugees mainly from Syria, of course Iraq, Afghanistan. Many of these troubled parts are leaving, and while at one level people recognize the need to help fellow human beings in difficulty, there is also an increasing concern that what is all this increased diversity, how is it going to affect the different communities in other parts of the world. And of course, we are familiar with the issues here at home, with the issues about immigrants coming in. So diversity is something that provides a lot of opportunities, but it also produces a lot of challenges. Now, in order to understand this better, we must recognize the importance of symbols in daily life. We oftentimes don't realize how much our lives are guided by symbols. A symbol is anything, as we know, that represents something else. A symbol is helpful to simplify a complexity. Things tend to be complex, and then in order to refer to them, in order to understand them, in order to speak about them, we need something simpler, and a symbol is an easy way to do it. For instance, the symbol Om, it's a sound symbol, it's visually shown this way. A symbol just gives you, but then if someone were to ask me, and it's a question that I often get asked when oftentimes those students from different schools come as a group, and one of the questions that is often asked is, what is this symbol? What does it stand for? Now, to draw this on a paper is very easy, but then when you have to explain what it means, you know that it stands for a very, very profound idea, but complex in itself, which gets simplified just through a symbol. Even the word I, the first person pronoun that we use all the time, is a symbol. I is a symbol that stands for a person, which is the much more complex entity. The president of a country is a symbol that represents that country. So sometimes we just say the president did this. Well, obviously we know the president is a symbol. Or sometimes we speak about Iraq did this or Iran did this. So again, we are using these words. The word itself is very simple, but when we refer it to a religion or a nation or even a person, all of these things, naming the names are only symbols that refer to a much more complex entity. So even the word religion or any specific name given to religion, such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, they are all symbols, they are representations. And the question is, what do these words, the word religion, or the specific names that these religions have, what or who do these words represent? But first, how did even religions come to be? And there could be many theories about it. What seems to me a very natural way to understand it is that human beings, whenever they began thinking, at some point, these questions came into their mind. Simple question would be, how did this all world come about? From where did it all come? The kind of answer that science today, with its material approach, while say, well, we'll go to Big Bang and all the different theories about it. But going beyond simply the material approach to reality, we might still ask, from where did it come to? How did this world come about? And still further, looking at our own lives, does my life have any ultimate purpose? What is the meaning of all of this? Did I exist before I was born? Would I continue to exist after I die? Well, what does death mean? Where do people go after they die, if they go anywhere at all? Now, these are the kind of questions. Clearly, we are not the first people to be asking these questions. In every generation, people have asked these questions. And everyone has tried to figure out what it all means. Now, at different points in history, in different parts of the world, different answers came to the people just by the enormous diversity in the way people think. And these different answers over time got codified. And these are what seems to me to have come down to us as different religions. Each of these different sets of answers produced a specific worldview. By worldview, I simply mean the world that we encounter. What does it mean? Where did it come from? Who is this person encountering this world? What is the relationship between this person who is seeing the world and the world itself? What is the relationship between whoever is the maker or creator of this world? So there are three entities. The source from which it comes, we normally use the word God, the creation or the world, and me as a person. How are these three entities related among themselves? Now, these relationships taken together is what we would normally say in a layperson's language, a worldview. So these different worldviews that emerged out of these different answers, each of these then we could say became a religion. Now, oftentimes these answers got codified in written texts. Many of the world religions, the ancient religions, one of the reasons that these religions have survived over long periods of time is because of a book. And that's been seen, that those traditions that emerged but never had a central book to hold it together didn't last too long. So there is something to be said in favor of these primary texts, the revelation, so to speak, which has held on or preserved these traditions over centuries. Now, so religion can refer to those scriptures which are at the heart of that religious worldview, but also people whose lives have been shaped by a specific worldview promoted by the scriptures of those religions. Now, the authenticity of those religions was confirmed when people found positive results as a result of building their lives according to those worldview. And then, of course, a few among these people, they found that they were able to transcend their human limitations as a result of building their lives according to these answers derived from their tradition. So a religion, therefore, can refer to a scripture, it can refer to a tradition that has evolved from it. A religion can refer to the people who see themselves as belonging to that religion. So the word religion clearly is the word itself is simple, but it represents a more complex entity. Now the same is true of the names of religions as well. So the term Christianity can refer to the Bible, it can refer to the Christian tradition, it can refer to the people who self-identify as Christians. Now we need to keep this in mind, because if we don't, we run the risk of thinking that religion or any of these specific names, like Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, and so on, are monolithic structures with no complexity. It's never like that. So none of this is like one monolithic, because we normally have a tendency to oversimplify things. We say, this is what Islam is. Islam does this, or Christianity has done that. Well, it's easy to just put a word and say it has done it, but we are really referring to something which is very, very complex. It's oftentimes also when we speak about, oh, this person did so and so. Again, every human being, and we can know that from looking at our own lives, we are very, very complex creatures in many ways. The choices that we make, the decisions that we take are never very simple. There are so many factors working within us. There are emotional reasons, there are social reasons, there are different pressures. There are pressures, economic pressures, there are pressures from family, pressures from your peers. There are so many different factors working on our own life which influence the decisions that we take and the choices that we make. And so nothing seems as simple as it might appear from outside. And that is why when we think about religion, we have to keep in mind the complexities involved. So when we speak about, for instance, religious conflict, we must ask who or what is in conflict. Because simply saying these two religions always fight with one another, again, makes no sense. Because each of those two religions or each of those bunch of religions who are fighting are really, each of them is a very complex entity. Now we say, is it the scriptures of those religions which are conflicting one another? Is it the people of those religions that are in conflict with one another? These are the kind of questions we need to ask if we really want to go deeply into it. Superficially, people can make all kinds of comments, and we see that all the time. Not just, well, even apparently leaders, even in politics and in different fields you find, people make such casual statements. But those of us who see ourselves as thoughtful people, we need to pause before making such summary statements and then look deeply and say, well, what exactly does it mean when we say these religions are fighting or these religions are in conflict? Swami Vivekananda said this, these are his words. It comes in the 4th volume of his complete works, page 125. He says, now in my little experience, I have collected this knowledge, that for all the devilry that religion is blamed with, religion is not at all in fault. No religion ever persecuted people. No religion ever burnt witches. No religion ever did any of these things. What then incited people to do these things? Politics, but never religion. And if such politics takes the name of religion, whose fault is that? So it is one clue we get. Whenever we see a conflict, no matter how that conflict gets characterized in the media, we need to look deeply and say, is religion itself fighting? Or it's, first of all, well, I mean, religion, again, as I said, religion could be a text, it could be people, and we never see kind of texts going at each other. That's just not possible. So it's really people involved who are really fighting. And then we need to ask, the people who are fighting, how representative they are of the religions that they claim to belong to. And that's, again, becomes even more complex. Can any of us truly say that, well, I represent my religion fully? I doubt any of us, in all honesty, would like to take that burden upon ourselves. What we can say is that surely, even in whichever tradition we identify with, we know that often these traditions are huge. There is so much in them. But we know some of those things in the tradition appeal to us. Some of those things resonate with our head and heart. Head and heart. And we know that, yes, I can see it, these are the things. But maybe there are a lot of the things about the tradition I may not even know. Some of the things in the tradition I may not even agree with. So none of us can even say, well, I represent the entire tradition. So when people fight among themselves, is it possible that they may be perhaps using religious language to justify their reasons for doing whatever they do? Perhaps a lot of religious symbols get used in any conflict. And it's easy, therefore, then to just in a very facile manner say, well, religions are fighting. So that is what Vivekananda asks us to focus on, that whenever we see any conflict, we look deeply in it and say, well, who are in conflict? And those who are in conflict, do they represent a fringe of that religious tradition or the entire religious tradition? And what we do see is that, as we will see in the next few minutes, that this is just a very general observation. I would go out on a limb and just imagine most people everywhere, they just want to be happy. They just want to be peaceful. They want to take care of their family and just lead a hassle-free, problem-free life. Only a few in every grouping, a few who maybe due to their own ambitions, maybe wanting quest for power or leadership positions, or their own some personal ambitions or agenda. There's something going on in the minds of a few, usually a minority in every group, who then perhaps if they possess some leadership qualities or some charisma, are able to then manipulate the feelings of people. And as I said, the religious instinct is very strong. It's not too difficult for a charismatic leader to manipulate the religious feelings of people and get them to do what that leader wants them to do. And so we'll have to also see whether the people who are fighting or the leaders who claim that they represent them, how representative those leaders themselves are of the religion they seem to belong to before characterizing any conflict as a religious conflict. Coming from religious conflict to religious harmony, the question is, are the religions of the world in harmony? Now, it might be difficult to say a positive yes or a positive no to this answer because, as I said in the beginning, religions seem to have done both. They have brought peace, they have brought war. They have brought a lot of joy, they have also brought a lot of pain. So, is it possible to give a definitive answer to the question whether the religions of the world are in harmony? Is there such a thing as harmony of religions? According to Swami Vivekananda again, yes, the harmony already exists. He said that he learned this from his teacher, Ramakrishna. First thing he said he learned from Ramakrishna was that religion is not simply a matter of belief. Religion does not mean simply acknowledging something as true or believing in a set of doctrines. Religion is a matter of experience. Religion is a matter of realization. And the second thing he said he learned from Ramakrishna, and these are Vivekananda's words, the second idea that I learned from my master, and which is perhaps the most vital, is the wonderful truth that the religions of the world are not contradictory or antagonistic. They are but various phases of one eternal religion. That one eternal religion is applied to different planes of existence, is applied to the opinions of various minds and various races. There never was my religion or your religion, my national religion or your national religion. There were never existed many religions. There is only the one. One infinite religion existed all through eternity and will ever exist. And this one religion is expressing itself in various countries in various ways. Therefore, we must respect all religions and we must try to accept them all as far as we can. George Bernard Shaw is credited with this statement. He said that there is only one religion, but many different versions of it. Another word that's important in this quote of Vivekananda that I just read was accepting the religion. Nowadays we speak about toleration. We must tolerate all religion. That's toleration is better than tolerating other religions is better than not tolerating them, clearly. But there is a stage higher than toleration. Toleration, somehow the word has a sense attached around it, which is like, I know you're wrong, but I tolerate you anyway. But there is the higher way would be to say, no, I accept it. Your way may not be my way, but I not just tolerate it, but I recognize it's a valid way. That's not the way I would like to go. It's like you go to a restaurant and you get the menu. There's so many things on the menu. You don't like all of those things. Maybe you have certain favorites among them. You can't say, well, I just tolerate the other dishes. Well, if you don't like certain other dishes, well, there are other people who like it. Maybe the dish that you like, maybe it's not the favorite of someone else. It's good that all this variety is available, so that if one thing doesn't work for me, something else will. And that's the beauty of diversity. If there is just one way, and recognizing that we are all so different, then if there is just one way, then it might suit a few people and others are left out. There's nothing for them. On the other hand, if there are many ways, then if one thing doesn't suit me, it's like if you go to a restaurant, they say there is just one dish, either have it or get out. Then it doesn't work. That business won't run, it'll collapse. So variety is always good. Now, the idea that religious harmony already exists, this idea may not be apparent to all at the moment. Clearly, apparent to very few probably today. One other place, Swami Vivekananda said, I like this very much. So he said, all that people have to do is just be silent for some time. Rather than there is so much noise and sound and fury being created by a bunch of people saying, blah, 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 religions are like this. And then other people say, no, there is a religious harmony. Both sides, just be silent. And when everything quiets down, we'll suddenly see the harmony that we all want, or the harmony that we think isn't there, is already present. So there is that little book, The Imitation of Christ, by Thomas A. Kempis. In one place he says, I like that very much. He says, preachers of the world, just be silent, and O my soul, speak thou to me. So sometimes too much sound, too much noise prevents us from listening to that deep inner voice that is going on within our heart. And so since this truth that the religious harmony already exists is not apparent to most people, over the years and over centuries, different approaches towards the presence of many religions have emerged. Of how to deal with the traditions other than one's own. Now, these different approaches represent a very wide spectrum of people that are present in every religious tradition. So, and we know, even by just looking at your family or your bunch of friends, or whichever group you are a part of, you can see that among that group, there will be some extremely fanatical people. There'll be some extremely liberal people. There'll be conservative, there'll be liberal, there'll be a big number somewhere in the middle at different. So there are, in any group, and certainly in every religion, there are people who will cover this entire spectrum. And because of the differences within every religion, you'll find people having different approaches towards religious plurality. Now, I have, for convenience, divided these approaches into three categories. One is what I call a pre-dialogue approaches. That is, even before people even want to get into dialogue, people even want to even know about other religion, or want to have conversation with people who are different from themselves. And one of the approach towards that is what we can call the exclusivist approach. And that is to say, well, there are, in fact, just to deny that there are many religions and say, well, there is only one religion, which kind of sounds very similar to what Vivekananda said, except that the exclusivist approach says, only one religion is true, and that is my religion. And all these other religions, which claim to be religion, are in fact not religions at all. Now, this view, there are people in every religious tradition, a few people, at least, in every religious tradition who hold this view. That, well, my religion is the only true one. Others are not really religion. So this is the kind of an exclusivist approach. And since my religion is the only religion that's true, I don't need to talk with anyone. I don't need to discuss with anyone. I don't need to even get to know other religions because there are no other true religion other than my own. So exclusivist approach precludes the need for any dialogue or any understanding. There's another one way of dealing with it, and that is sometimes called the inclusivist approach, which also precludes the need for understanding or dialogue. And that is to say, well, my religion is true, but there is a little bit of truth present in other religions as well. So other religions are not like totally untrue, but they are a little bit, there's some light in them. But in course of time, that little light that these other religions will have will bring them to my religion, and then they will have the full light. And so that's sometimes called the inclusivist approach. In other words, whatever these other so-called religions have to offer is already present in my own. So I don't have anything to learn, but they have a lot to learn from me. So that these are the two approaches before a dialogue is even necessary or felt necessary: exclusivist and inclusivist. A second category is the dialogic approach. And this approach is held by some people who say, rather than coming to any what's the word I'm looking for? Any conclusion too early, premature, that's the word I'm looking for. Before coming to any premature conclusion about whether mine is the only true religion or other religions are less real or more real, let's not come to any conclusion. Let's just sit and talk. And that's good. So this is the dialogic approach. Let's sit across table and talk. You can tell me about your religion, I can tell you about my religion, and let's try to understand each other. And perhaps this mutual exchange of ideas may lead to some result. Again, if I get into a dialogue with someone with a definitive plan that in this dialogue, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to tell you how right I am, then that's not really the kind of dialogue I'm referring to. But dialogue really means that both sides come, they strongly believe in their own tradition, but are open to learning about the other, are open to accepting the possibility that the others may have something which may benefit me. So only in an atmosphere of mutual respect and understanding, they don't have to agree with everything. So there is the agreement is not a mutual condition. One can continue to disagree, but disagreement doesn't require disrespect. Disagreement doesn't require that I hate you. And so that kind of a dialogue where people are willing to sit across table and listen to one another, learn from one another, to see if there is anything to learn, and then leave it open to the idea, well, wherever this dialogue may reach us. Perhaps it might enrich both of us. Perhaps one of us might find that he or she is wrong, the other is right, we don't know. But to go with an open mind to that dialogue. So that's the second approach, a dialogic approach. And a third set of approaches is what I call the post-dialogic approach. So what would happen? What are the possibilities that can occur after a dialogue? One approach might be, one approach is clearly either of the parties thinking, well, the other guys are just wrong, they are false. And there's nothing much to do about that. But what Vedanta says is that if these world religions sit across the table, or people representing the religions sit across the table and share, they will find that they have a lot more in common than the differences among them. There are differences. The differences cannot be denied, because if there are no differences at all, why are there different religions? So the differences are there. But the question that then can come is, are the similarities amongst us, that similarities that unite us, are they more vital than the differences that divide us? Which of these things that unite us are more vital to my tradition, and which are the things that divide us are more vital to my tradition? Which are the essentials of my tradition, and which I could say are not essentials? And so on. So these are the kind of questions that might come. And perhaps a dialogue might lead to an approach. A post-dialogic approach would be, it might lead to an approach which sometimes can be called a syncretic approach. But syncretism means that as we become familiar with traditions other than one's own, we might find in them some of the things that resonate with our heart and mind, some of the things that we were not familiar with, some of the things that appeal to us. And we might say, oh, so I remain rooted in my own tradition, and then I incorporate the things that I learned from other traditions into my own religious life. Now, if I do that a little bit randomly, the result may not always be tasty. But by that I mean this. It's like this. You go to a market, you go to a grocery store, and you find 4 or 5 things, which all of them are wonderful. You like them, you buy them. And then you say, oh, each of these things appeals to me. Now I'm going to put them all together and make a dish. Perhaps the resultant dish of those 5 items together may be tasty. Perhaps it may not be tasty. Because again, it's like this. Perhaps you like salt, and you like cabbages, and you like blah, blah, blah. You like all of this, and you say, I like all of them equally, so I'm going to put them all in equal quantity. No, then we say, well, salt really can't put too much of a salt into everything. It's a very kind of a silly example, but the idea is this. Even when we try to mix up things, they need to be done intelligently. They need to be done in a proper proportion. Otherwise the result may be a hodgepodge. So syncretism, that's what increasing number of people today follow, a syncretistic approach. But it succeeds, or it benefits us to the extent we are able to incorporate these things from other traditions into our own, and incorporate it intelligently enough to see that the result is a wholesome result, not just a bunch of things. One other possible result of a dialogue might be, people might say, I think that the dialogue is going nowhere. I don't think it'll result. It's going to help in any way. So let's just not talk about it. So you practice your religion at home. I'll practice my religion at my home. When we meet outside, we won't talk about it. And so this is the secular approach. Oftentimes, it's got codified in many democratic societies today as the separation between church and state. And it has helped a lot. But it's based on this idea that if we bring religion into the public sphere, there is always a danger of it getting into conflict. So one way to avoid that conflict is don't make it public. Your religion is your own private thing, and my religion is my own private thing, and let's not talk about it. So that's the secular approach, if you like. And finally, there is a harmonious approach. Now, a few in every tradition, and these are usually those whom we see as mystics, people who we see as, and we use different terms for it. Sometimes you might say these are the enlightened ones, a people in whose heart that religion has flowered fully. All the positives of that religion have flowered fully in a human heart. Then they might be able to see what we might call a harmonious approach. And one of the first insights that comes through this harmonious approach is to recognize the recognition that the religions of the world are not contradictory, not mutually contradictory, but complementary. That they together, it's almost like it's like a symphony. You have these several different musical instruments being played simultaneously, But when they together, if they all combine in a proper harmony, you have wonderful music as a result of it. And we know that not every musical instrument sounds same. I mean, their notes are different, their sound, everything is different. But together, they produce such beautiful music. Exactly in the same way, it's possible to see that the different religions, each is like a musical instrument. And together, all these different religions, together they can produce a wonderful music. And this can happen to begin with, on a smaller scale. That is, a bunch of enlightened people who strive to look deeply within their own spiritual lives, discover this harmony, and then are able to live in harmony. This can happen among a small place of worship, or even within a family, or within an extended family, where not all may be professing the same religion. And yet, people can live in perfect harmony, not by not talking about religion, but speaking about it, practicing it, and yet being completely, fully accepting the other, no matter how different the other may be. And these small communities, which can represent that harmony, then become a model for other larger communities. And one of the great contributions of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda and Sharada Devi was to help start and found these kind of communities. And that's what the Vedanta Society stands for. Those of us who come here, who have been associated with it for years, sometimes for decades, if we can not just talk about religious harmony, but live that harmony. Clearly, all those who come to the Vedanta Society, we don't all say we all belong to the same religion or everything is same. In fact, we are very, very diverse. But we not only respect that diversity, celebrate that diversity, but have this full acceptance. And the reason we are able to do it is that we see that underlying unity. We see that underlying harmony, because we can hear that music that comes together in a harmonious way. And the three things that Ramakrishna taught, which helped us look at this harmony, was first, that all religions have a same goal. Now, the goal itself can be called by, and is called by, different names. You might think about salvation, the Buddhists speak about nirvana, the Hindus speak about moksha, and so on. These are different terms. And theologically, they are even expressed different ways. Like, what is the ultimate goal of life? What do I look forward to? The moment I try to express it, it'll take different forms. But if you look at it at the experiential level, as an experience, what does a human being look for? What do we really want? And then I don't think there would be two opinions on this. I think there'll be very little disagreement if we say, well, we want to be happy. We don't want any pain and suffering. We want to be free. Now, that experience of freedom, that experience of joy, that total absence of suffering, the moment I try to then visualize it and put it, whether it's going and being with the Lord in heaven, or getting out of this cycle of birth and death, or just extinguishing of this false I, and call these by different names, but the experience itself is the same. And that is what Ramakrishna meant when he said that all religions have the same goal as an experience. Secondly, that there is only one God. The God, the presence of that source from which we come, the world comes, that one source can be viewed as with form or formless, or even beyond the notion of form and formlessness, can be viewed as having a name or having no name. Doesn't matter how it is viewed, but that which is viewed is one. And finally, that every religion has the power to take its followers to that ultimate experience. That every religion is equally true and authentic. Now, recognition of these three things, that we see that something that not only Ramakrishna taught, but he himself lived that way. And he lived that way because that's how he realized it through his own spiritual practices. To the extent we are able to not just understand it intellectually, but to the extent we are able to practice it in however little a way within the circles in which we move, to that extent we can say we have become true representatives of Ramakrishna's life. Who can say, I'm a follower of Ramakrishna, or I'm a follower of Vedanta, or I'm a Vedanta student? If the word follower is like that doesn't sound too good. If I'm a Vedanta student or I'm a Ramakrishna Vivekananda student, when do I have a right to call myself a Vedanta student? Not simply because I'm a member of the Vedanta Society, not simply because I've read a few books of Vedanta, not simply because some of these things make sense to me. A true Vedanta student is one who not only has made an effort to understand these principles, but have made a very sincere effort to live according to it. We may not succeed all the time. We may fail a million times, but never mind, I'm still making a sincere effort to live according to these teachings. And that's what will transform our life, our effort to live according to it. And in order to live according to it, we must understand it. And after understanding it, we must live according to it. And the more we are able to do this, we will discover the harmony that already exists. Then these words of Vivekananda that I read earlier, that there is in fact only one religion, and all the other religions are manifestations of it. And the more we go toward the center, towards the source, all these differences vanish. It's a little bit like a circle. A circle, all along the circumference, there could be any number of points along the circumference, but the center of the circle is one. The more I'm on a circumference, I'm going to be at a different point. But the closer I start going toward the center, ultimately when I'm at the center, we will all meet there. So the idea is to go as close as possible to the center. The closer we go to the center, the closer we come. The farther we go from that center, the more diverse and the more conflicting everything becomes. And that center, looking at it in an objective way, in a theistic way, we call that center God. Looking at it subjectively, from the terminology that Vedanta uses, that center is the true spirit, the Atman, the self. So a lot of things to think about when we think about harmony. And today, of course, we focus mainly on religious harmony, but any harmony that you think about, whether it's harmony at the social level or harmony within the body and mind, we need to take into consideration the complexities involved. We need to look deeply, and we will find the answers that come to us will truly transform our own lives. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhuhu. We bow down to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. Next Sunday, we will have Antar Yoga, as we have once every month, and along with the birthday celebration of all of you who are born in the month of October. So especially those of you who are born in the month of October, make sure that you come and bring if your friends and family also, if any of them are born in the month of October. So we'll have a big celebration next Sunday for all October borns, along with, of course, the readings from our members, plus music and prayer. So that's the program for next Sunday. On Wednesday, this Wednesday, we will not have the Gita. So we will, for the study group, will meet not this Wednesday, but a week from this Wednesday. The Tuesday and Saturday, Arati and meditation will continue as usual. So you're welcome for these programs. We'll conclude with a prayer now on page 3. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto you.